The first project that we're going to be focusing on is commercials. Commercials are going to last between 30 and or roughly 30 to 60 seconds. I would err easy. I would err on the side of having that commercial probably closer to 60 seconds because they're giving you a length option. We're going to brainstorm some topics here towards the end of the class period. You can see my list of things I want to accomplish this week and into next for you guys. We're going to, we need to talk about equipment too. Prep, we're going to pitch the product to our group of what we want to potentially work with. And I think I'm going to have you pitch too. Writing the script and then storyboarding shots and then voiceover and audio here on Monday. But by next Wednesday, you will have shots due. So that is 1 week from today. So commercial only requires, even if you averaged a shot every 2 seconds, which is supremely fast, for 60 seconds, you're only taking 30 shots. Now, I say only 30 shots, like a shot's easy. If your production value is high, even one shot is a bit of a challenge, right? So I would say you're probably looking at between 7 and 10 shots would be pretty normal. We're also going to have to think through graphic overlays and things that we can supplement besides just video. I'll give you a quick, for instance, as I'm working with the back to school night videos for Tuesday, I'm editing Bolt. So there's Bolt and his shot I got yesterday, but I'm putting Bolt in a frame here. I've got a lower third here. In this one, I have to move Bolt over so that he shows up in this frame, and then I'm going to put a graphic and put up some statistics. And this is a little bit more informative. It's education, it is information. So product doesn't necessarily need a whole lot of text. On the other hand, depends on the product. If we're going to do a pharmaceutical company, which would be totally fine, their information comes up all the time. Like, this drug does this, lowers the blood pressure, or AFib or whatever those things are, right? And they constantly are giving you information that's important. That's weird that TV went, oh, do I need to click it and say okay? Okay, now it might work. Okay, so Art and Copy is a documentary. I'm going to start it from the start, although I've edited portions out. It has some aggressive cursing at times, so I tried to tackle those and remove that stuff, and then also focus it around these 5 concepts of your discussion questions. It's a video that came out, or a film that came out maybe 2000 and let's look, but Art and Copy 2008 or 2006, 2009. So powerful new film, not new anymore, about advertising and inspiration. So it's not necessarily driven around just commercials. There's a whole lot of stuff that's talking about print media as well. So I think the concepts are going to be important, though. As I was in a meeting just talking about Wheaton Academy culture this morning, and kind of what that looks like and what we want to continue to create. I thought of the concept of the kernel, which is going to be here in one of your questions. Understanding the kernel of the company that you're working with. So we'll play this out. I'm going to go full screen, virtual people. Audio, I think, will be fine. If there is an issue, let's go ahead and use the chat, and I'll try and work that out. So I'll put the chat off to the side there for me. And I'm going to stop it after a little bit. Just the fact that they're talking about creativity and marketing, they're going to try some interesting shots through this process too. And the information that comes up, they use a lot of information by 2010. This is a 2009 film. They say like by 2010, this will have happened in the marketing industry, or this is how many people like satellites. They're still talking about like big satellites for TVs and things like that, and televisions and things. So just realize some of the information is dated, which means the numbers are a whole lot bigger than what they're saying, since we've doubled the technology age at this point. I don't know how loud this is right now.
The frightening and most difficult thing about being what somebody calls a creative person is that you have absolutely no idea where any of your thoughts come from, really. And especially if you don't have any idea about where they're going to come from tomorrow.
I think there's always an innate human urge to put something out there and see what people are going to make of it. We're doing exactly the same thing as the guys that were playing in caves. We're creating an atmosphere that makes us comfortable or makes us concerned or gets a reaction out of us that the communicator wanted.
Three figures at the top are watchmen in the Simpson tradition. The watchmen watch over the house and everyone in it, and are guardians. And they sit on top of the eagle, which is the clan of the carver. The figure below that is an elder, and the palm of his hand, the eyes signify giving or a gift. And the figure at the base is a mother frog with a baby frog on its back. And that represents us, because in Simpson culture, the frog is a messenger. Right.
Call us rotators. They call us rotators because we're rotating this sign to this sign and rotating copies around the city. My family's been doing it since, I don't know, 19 something, early 19, like 1930 something. My great grandfather was a bill poster for the same company. That's my great grandfather. That's my dad's grandfather. I never thought, oh, my grandpa did it, my great grandfather did it, this is what I want to do. It was just kind of, my dad came home, you're graduating high school next week, you got a job interview doing billboards, you're going in the military, you're going to college, and sitting on the couch. My dad was never out of work the whole time I was growing up. My grandfather was never out of work. My great grandfather, even through the Great Depression, my great grandfather was working. I never found unemployment, ever. it's been busy. I don't know any of the people who make the ads at all, not personally, no.
Obviously, by saying work has been busy, we don't really care that a billboard, setup construction guy, is busy. This is a marketing film. In essence, they're saying ever since the 1930s, marketing has been around and has been busy. So, and this is, of course, print, where it's large image, few words on a huge screen you can see for miles.
I was on a TV show once with David Susskind back in those days. We said, gentlemen, what is advertising? The guy from J. Walter Thompson, one of them, goes into this 5-minute discussion about marketing and this and that. I mean, I didn't know what the hell he was talking about. And then he said, George, why are you making faces? Camera cuts to me. David, I think these two guys and me are in a different business. And he said, well, what do you think advertising is? And I said, well, I think advertising is poison gas. Advertising should cheer you up and should choke you if you get the chills, and maybe you should pass out when you watch it.
It's a romantic story, really is. Bill Bernbach, Ned Doyle, Bob Gage and I were all working at Gray Agency. Bill came into Bob's office one day and he said, well, we're going to do it. Ned Doyle is coming with us. And I thought, oh boy, he's the hottest salesman I've ever seen. And he's got a friend, Mac Dane, plays tennis with him. I said, Doyle, Dane, Bernbach, it has a nice swing. Gage and Bernbach. And on this side, that's me in the year I smoked. And there were 14 of us, 14 people when we started, including the production guy and the phone operator. And I was named copy chief. Same eyeglasses, see? I didn't think, oh, wow, I'm joining a place that's going to take over the advertising business. I had no sense of how big and important a move this was. I knew it was exciting.
Advertising up until the late 50s, when Bill Bernbach came along, was an old boys club, the proper school, the right connections. And that went on for years. It was ingrown mediocrity. And at first, he was given no chance, a flash in the pan. They'll catch on to him. They never caught on to him. He had caught on to them.
You said to people you worked at Doyle, Dane, Bernbach, and they looked at you as though you had suddenly turned into gold. It was the place to be, and it was such an honor to work there. That was like working for Mao or somebody amazingly powerful.
Bill Bernbach added an entire new creative force to advertising by putting the art director in the same room as the copywriter. That had never been done before. At J. Walter, my copy would be taken up one floor to the art director, who would make an ad out of my copy. We'd never discuss it. Art directors had no input in terms of the thinking. When Bernbach said, hey, art director, me copywriter, you guys work it out together from a blank sheet of paper.
Okay, can I pause for a second? 1, 2, 3, 4 of you, your eyes are on your screen, and you are going to get time to answer the questions when the quotes are happening. So you should look because this is a strong visual film, more so than just the words. Watch the screen, look at the ads, understand what they're doing, because this will apply to video at some point here.
Volkswagen is the most famous one, of course. This little German car that everybody disliked because it was too close after the war. Nobody thought a little ugly German car would sell. He just turned that into the hottest, chicest, coolest car around. He had an ability to see how you could just cut right through a tradition that was getting in the way of a product and turn it around and make it a positive thing.
There had always been great copywriting. I mean, there's a lot of great copy lines in the history of advertising. You know, they laughed when I sat down at the piano. I'd walk a mile for a camel. I mean, I think there's thousands of them, you know. What the art director brought was the fact that when you did advertising, you always looked for a big idea. So you did something that stunned.
Dear clumsy bellboys, brutal cab drivers, careless doormen, and all butter-fingered luggage handlers all over the world, have we got a suitcase for you?
It was a joy back then to look at advertising coming from 4, 5, or 6 agencies. You know, it was just a joy to see these campaigns coming at you. Today, I mean, you look at advertising and you say, wow, wow, wow. Dylan, Malcolm X, John Kennedy, and Fidel Castro. And the Corsair effect was kind of a prophetic note. A lot of Esquire covers I did were cultural breakthroughs because it's an ad, it's a statement, and what it says is this magazine's doing some wonderful stuff in here. There's something going on, something exciting going on. Muhammad Ali, St. Sebastian. He came out in his trunks, etc. And I said, Muhammad, I want you to pose just like this. I want it kind of relaxed. I want the same way, but your head is in agony. I hated the system. I hated the status quo. We were changing the world, and everybody respected it. They really understood you were changing the culture. I would make political and graphic statements that grabs at the heart, grabs at your throat, and make statements about what the hell you think life should be about. You know, and that's what I've done, I think, all my life with my advertising. I mean, I was always trying to sell product, but I was always making a point. I think advertising can be, and should be, and at times has been, revolutionary, subversive.
They're going to show another thing here in a second that's going to be subversive. Number one, I apologize. That guy says hell quite a bit. He also said the F word multiple times that we've already edited it out. So, but I apologize that he's a little crass. There's that first quote there. I was always trying to sell a product, but I was also trying to make a point. They say this later in the film, and other people's kind of changed. They changed.
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
No. They say it, but they're all saying roughly the same thing, which is what you care about is going to come into your underlying sense of advertising. If you're hopeful, your advertising is going to be hopeful. If you're trying to break the world from its current value system and break it down into something else, that's going to come out and shine through. If you had to overcome, your advertising might talk about overcoming. You're going to see the world differently. So that first question is just, as we reflect for a moment here, what do you care about and what point would you make if you could? What could you be a little bit more aggressive on? It doesn't matter what the product is. Where would your push be? What would you want people to see? Just think about it for a second. Yeah, go ahead.
That's kind of like, what do you care about?
Yeah.
What I care about in what? Like advertising?
No.
I care about my family. Advertising family. I care about baseball.
Yeah, absolutely. You can say advertising if you care about family, those family values will definitely come out in advertising, in commercials. You'll either pick a product that will naturally have that, or if I'm Lucas, I always use this example of if it was like an insurance company, you might want to appeal to the entire family, not just to the business person. And that value of families in my mind all the time will be pushed there. You would try subliminally, your mind is thinking in line with how can I sell this, even though the companies are like telling you what to do, you're thinking, how is this going to relate to building family values? When you say baseball, I'd probably go a little bit further. What about baseball? It appeals to you. You know, is it the competition? Is it the detail of, and rules of and game, like figuring out the game? Is it what, you know, that type of thing? Just you're picking something that makes you you first. Yeah. You need to go potty? Yeah. Sure. Remove baseball. Competitive nature of people. Competitive competition. What about competition? I'm not saying a wrong and a right answer here. Yeah.
So
I mean, you can see when you are thinking through and being an artist, you know, some of you have taken at least 2 classes, media art and this one. Maybe you want to pursue going into this further. You have to know yourself to understand what art you want to create. So it's healthy to just think for a moment about you. The next question is going to deal with the same thing. I just don't want you to answer it yet. This is a great example. This commercial is going to be a commercial for the President of the United States. It happened after some significant war events. So you're going to see this little girl, and we know what President of the United States commercials can look like. They can be very patriotic and American values. They could be family driven. They could be money driven. They could be protection driven. So this is a little girl just counting petals of a flower. Brilliant, because they're working a child into this. And then it does destroy the mind a little bit. It's not amazingly shocking, but it's interesting.
and can live are to go into the dark. We must either love each other or we must die.
Vote for President Johnson on November 3rd. The stakes are too high for you to stay home.
Now, we do have that. Again, I've been watching the Republican National Convention and the Democratic National Convention. It was on Monday through Thursday last week, and now again Monday through Thursday this week for the Republican one. I've been watching their commercials, specifically the things that they're putting out that are marketing to us. And there's an aspect of fear that they want to put in and instill in someone. The fear of this happening. They can do it even with inviting speakers. So for instance, there was a couple that protected their house in St. Louis with guns when a riot was going towards their neighborhood in their particular house. They got arrested for their firearm usage. I think they have. I think the investigation is still ongoing. I don't think there's been anything yet. But if you type in St. Louis gun couple, it's really easy to find on Google. President brought them on screen on Monday, and they talked about, if Biden becomes president, this is the world that you're going to live in. And they were appealing very specifically to the high-class suburban family to say, rioters can take over your land and you're not allowed to protect your own land. Of course, we can talk about all the positive things about what Trump has done, but they were talking for Trump about fear if Biden got elected. Biden's doing the same thing against Trump. A lot of times, this is one method of advertising. The opposite is worse than what this product is. So you don't have to sell the product. You just have to sell the opposite being worse. What's the opposite of Pepsi? So you have to sell Coke being worse. This is not a strategy that necessarily Pepsi has taken. If you're going to do it, you have to do it well, because you're going to put that product in someone's mind. Oh, there is another product out there. But if you do it well, it turns into an advertising campaign that used to be there, and it was Mac versus PC. Have you ever seen any of those old commercials? Hi, I'm Mac and I'm PC. Have you seen those? Okay, let me show you this for 1 second. This is not really like terrible like hatred, but it ended up being the Mac wanted to, I'm Mac and I'm PC. Let's just see if it shows up on you. Yeah, this is one of the originals. Okay, so
hello, I'm a Mac.
And I'm a PC. You know, I actually just finished a home movie.
That's so funny. I just finished my own home movie. I did it on iMovie. It was really...
Now, for starters, you see the two people. What are they saying about a Mac versus a PC user based on what the visual right now? This person versus this person. Yeah, business, technical, like I'm smart guy kind of, right? I assume that's what they mean by glasses and a suit. And then this guy, creative, a little bit more free thinker, right? Am I wrong here? It feels that way. So they're costuming that way. So they're going opposites here.
I just finished my own home movie. I did it on iMovie. It was really easy.
Well, I doubt it's as excellent as mine, but I'd be happy to take a look.
Yeah, that would be great.
Roll it.
Hi, I'm a Mac home movie.
That looks really professional, right?
Well, great. Bye.
Wait. What about yours, please?
Please.
Well, okay, sure.
What's up? PC home movie. Work in progress?
They had a whole campaign that just attacked the opposite. So here's what we can do and here's what they can do. So you can think through that in terms of your own strategy, and it might be a value you might put on it is to say, okay, so the positive isn't there, but I am pretty good at getting people to not like something, and I can really sell them on that. All right, let's just keep going with this here. This is one of those stat statements. I think I'm going to fast forward through this for a second. So in essence, it's talking about televisions though. So this is 2 times, so it's going a little faster. Global advertising is going to exceed 544 billion. That's nothing. That's probably during the Super Bowl nowadays.
It's because you have satellites that you can watch on the TV what we are doing on this earth. Ads are coming from the satellites, but satellites are coming from the ads, because with the money from the ads, we can fund and launch satellites.
%70 of broadcast revenue comes from advertisements. That includes television shows, sports, all that stuff.
My mother was very quiet. My father was out of sight. Well, he'd been an ambulance driver, and he came back from the war clinically depressed. So most of the time I spent with him growing up, he would hide. At dinner, when we would eat, there was just never a word. You know? Nobody ever talked to me about anything. And I think people who are loners or who have lives that they have to kind of overcome when they're young, I think that they get a strength that's very useful later on.
That's the quote, but think about it for a little bit. Let's just watch this for a sec.
And my mother, in an effort to try to get me out of Poland, Ohio, pushed me into the theater because they couldn't afford to give me tap dancing lessons or singing lessons or anything like that. And my whole life changed because it became about the theater. And from the first moment that I got a job in advertising, which was in a department store, that whole theater experience that I'd been having all those years just all came and worked for me. Moving to Doyle Dane proved to me that I'd been right from the start, that it was the most exciting business you could possibly be in, and it was the right place for me. But it was print. Even on television, it was print. It was moving print. I wanted to turn it into the theater.
Isn't that wonderful?
So I left Doyle Dane Bernbach and went to Jack Tinker Partners and sort of ran that for a period of time. And while I was there, I tried to get my clients to do big things, you know, that were very dramatic.
Anybody who's a terrific ad person from the creative side, anyway, usually has those 2 qualities. They're salesmen and they're entertainers in one. She had it to perfection.
It was a...
All right. Before we see some of her campaign, go ahead and think through that concept for a second. It's a concept that is very popular, regardless of artistic expression. Overcoming something, finding that overcoming story taps you into what success you had. And if you remember success, you have more confidence that you were able to get through it, that you know what the opposite looks like. And I don't want to assume that we all have a working relationship with God. So if you don't fully believe that God brought you through it and you were brought through it in some other means, of course, we can have that discussion at some point, but you can answer it that way instead. How did you get through it, or how did you get help through it? So there is a chapter in the Bible in Matthew 5. Matthew 5 is well known for something called the Beatitudes. The Beatitudes, or also the Sermon on the Mount, is what really the titles are referring to. Let me read you a couple of verses from this chapter, and I'm reading from the Message. See, there you go, Ty. The Message. This is not a translation, a word-for-word translation. This is what's called a paraphrase. Someone rewrote the Bible and what he thought was what the Bible is trying to say. So I just wanted to state that right away, so it's not a perfect translation. Okay, so it says, Jesus saw his ministry drawing huge crowds, so he climbed a hillside. Arriving at a quiet place, he sat down and taught his climbing companions, or his disciples, this: you're blessed when you're at the end of your rope. With less of you, there is more of God and his rule. You're blessed when you feel you've lost what is most dear to you. Only then can you be embraced by the one most dear to you. You're blessed when you're content with just who you are, no more, no less. You're blessed when your commitment to God provokes persecution. The persecution drives you into an even deeper into God's kingdom. The gospel is very clear. As a Christ follower, you have to tap into the things that are making you less than. We are told, this was, I don't know if they refer to it in this one, in what I was watching, or something else, but I think it was this one, the me generation, totally fine, but we all focus on ourselves a lot more than generations of the past. Like, we have a lot of self-care. We make a lot of decisions for our own personal health. So, but we're always told to look at us. If you want to become better, you need to do this yourself. If you want to overcome something, you need to try harder. And the gospel is actually kind of working a little bit backwards to say, with less of you, there's more of God. With more persecution, you actually find yourself in a better place. With weakness becomes strength. When you're lost, you are found. The gospel is always these opposite world messages, which maybe it's not as opposite as we say, because the woman says the best advertisers have had something in their life that they've had to work through and made them less than, and now they are more than because of it. Let's see what she continued to create.
On when all planes had come out of the Army, they weren't thinking food, they weren't thinking services. When you were in them, they were as dull as they could possibly be. Everybody looked like some kind of an Army officer.
But the campaign for the new Brana was on my shoulders, and we had piles of ideas in the corner on these tissues, piles and piles and piles, and we hated everything. She comes down into the room, like the 15th time she's been visit she's done. She looks in the garbage can next to my desk, and she sees this wrinkled up piece of tissue. She pulls it out. She looks and says, "What's this?" We come up with that about once a day. I said, "But we throw it away because it's just too obvious." She says, "Obvious? It's divine." And she said, "Do that."
Braniff International is creating the most beautiful airline in the world. We hired Emilio Pucci to design our uniforms. hostesses wear reversible coats of almond green and apricot, space helmets to keep out the rain, red space suits, and sometimes something a little more comfortable. And we hired Alexander Gerard to do our planes. We have blue planes, orange planes, yellow planes. You can fly with us 7 times and never fly the same color twice. Inside 7 different color schemes. And since we fly to Mexico and South America, art from Peru, Brazil, and Argentina. Cha-cha-cha. Braniff International announces the end of the plain plane. We won't get you where you're going any faster, but it'll seem that way.
Mary came up with the idea of painting the plane. She was the one who sold, and believe me, that's no small matter, sold the idea to Braniff and got them to do it. She overlooked the design of the uniform. She hired Pucci and she hired Alexander Gerard. She got, all the players involved. The advertising part of it was really the last piece, which was how do you announce it to the world?
When a Braniff International hostess meets you on the airplane, should we dress like this?
We got gorgeous stewardesses in those days. That was an okay thing to do. They were all young and beautiful, beautiful legs, and we made it fun to fly. People flew with us because they were having a theatrical experience. It was a time when people loved marketing. They got it. They understood we were all having fun with each other. The world had been pretty dull after the war and through depressions, and people loved fun ideas. Life was suddenly perky.
Turn left.
I can't do what you want.
Life was dull after the war. I just think of how much, we're in this COVID marketing world. You know what I'm talking about? Like, companies are coming out and saying, we're all in this together. They're coming out and saying, if you do this, we'll donate a portion of the proceeds to help with this. They all want to be seen as very aware of what's happening with COVID, which is what's happening. The world, we're sitting here apart from each other in masks because of COVID. So it's a real thing. So one of my just thought things for you to think through is, COVID's driven everything. Are we too close to COVID to cheer up advertising? Is it weird to have marketing that is too perky and happy right now? Or is this something we need to push for? And when I say we, the more people respond to certain advertising, the more advertisers will do it. So are we in a place where people are like tired of COVID marketing and life is serious thing, or is it not even close to being over and we need to continue this type of serious push? The advertisers need to still focus around that. Toilet paper kind of made fun of it for a bit, right? There was a run on toilet paper, and now they kind of have some commercials that are surrounding maybe making light of that and having enough toilet paper and those types of things. Do you think it's too sensitive to ignore still? Because you will be making an advertisement that you are going to submit in around October or so for this contest. Do you think that people want to either have more seriousness to it? You don't have to recognize COVID in your marketing, but a little bit more somber tone? Or do you think you would like to see a little bit more life, scheme, energy, this kind of funness that she's talking about after the war? I guess no one knows how long a war will last, but they knew when the war was done. Well, COVID's a different story right now. Vaccine doesn't mean war is done, right? I think we've heard that before. Well, now we have to get the vaccine out to a lot of people. So we might be a ways away in terms of what's happening. So are we way too much in the middle of it still? Or is this the time to get people to maybe think less of COVID and have to, even though it's there, you know what I'm saying? All right, I'll just keep on playing here while that's happening.
Okay, turn left. No matter how rough you treat a rebel, it's awfully hard to hurt it.
How am I doing? A lot better than yesterday.
We made it a series of dramas like a sitcom or something. They loved the extra effort, the fun we were doing, the drama we were giving them.
Look out for the truck! Behind the bus!
The rebel has held its own against some of the worst drivers in the world.
Should I choose a windshield wiper on it?
At this point, it looks like the rebels are going to outlast the teachers.
I start at 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm on my first job between 5:30. If all the conditions are right and there's a good setup, it takes about 13 minutes. We've been done with 10, 11 jobs by 9 o'clock in the morning.
And I was actually the encyclopedia salesman. You know, somebody, a stranger, opens the door and you have like 5 seconds to get their attention and make them like you and sell them something. No matter what it is, radio, TV, you've got to grab people. And the way you do that is to give them an idea that they can't resist. If you communicate in a way that's entertaining, people literally get something from it. And they literally like you because of the way you sold them something. They're like, they're American, man. This is, you know, this is free enterprise. You're a hell of a good salesman. Thank you very much. I loved it.
If you can find that kernel, the core of what that product is, so that when you talk about it, no matter how you talk about it, people respond and say, yes, that's right. Then if you talk about it in a strong, interesting, memorable way, they say, yeah, that's right, I'm going to buy it. It's a challenge to say the right thing the right way to get a person to do something you want them to do. And you can have, and will have an effect on a lot of people.
You don't even know encyclopedias, do you? The large books. I think Jeremiah Staten, you remember him from last year? Jeremiah went around to different teachers this past summer and tried to sell knives to them. Similar to this encyclopedia thing, Jeremiah shows up or texts you or calls you, and he knows he better have some sort of hook that says why you need a new knife, why your life has been worse off than if you would buy this knife and make your life a little bit better. These knives don't need sharpening. I don't know what it is. You're dicing your tomatoes wrong. When you tear into that steak, it takes you too long. I mean, I'd really need to be sold because I have 3 knives and then a couple of steak knives, and I'm not really into it. But my brother's a 5-star chef, and he certainly would tell me that knives are different and I would need these types of things, but we haven't even picked a product yet. But if we were going to pick Snickers, okay, we're going to sell people that aren't peanut allergies. Why would what is Snickers' current campaign? Do you guys know? Yeah,
You when you're
right.
hungry?
You aren't yourself when you are hungry. When you're hungry, and they turn like a celebrity person, a normal person, into a celebrity, and that celebrity is either Danny DeVito or Johnny, whatever his name was, with lots of tattoos, and so their idea, their kernel is Snickers will satisfy your hunger immediately. Like some snacks, you need lots of snacks. One Snickers will do that for you. You only have, especially with video and YouTube these days, and Instagram and Snapchat marketing coming at you, you have maybe a second to get to something. I follow Sports Center on Instagram, and sometimes they hook me before I can stop scrolling, and I really don't want to be hooked. But this guy's jumping off a cliff, and I just stand there and watch 3 guys jump off a cliff because that first hook was like amazing. But you got to figure out like how to start and get them. You don't have a captive audience. It's not like we're sitting them down with WAD TV and telling them to watch your stuff the whole time and supervised. These people are going to go away quick unless you grab that kernel. So really narrowing it down, we're going to try and, when we talk about product and you pick a couple, that's going to be an important part of picking it, the kernel of information. All right, let's go with this.
You want to move somebody to do something, you have to connect with them. You can't just slap them in the face with it or explain it or make a joke about it, or you have to get to them somehow. I worked on Clairol hair coloring, and I sold them on the idea of showing young things, and I use the theme, it lets me be me. It had something to do with just connecting, people connecting with each other. I suppose they were getting the message, hey, somebody recognizes me. Bruce Gelb, who was president of Clairol, came over with a friend and said to him, I want you to meet the woman who invented the Me Generation. And I said, no, Bruce, you're wrong. Me Generation was there, and I recognized it. And I pointed it out to you and showed you the signs of it.
The way New York got rid of their really bad people, they would send them out to their outer offices. And so they would take the worst person they had in the creative department and make him the creative director at San Francisco. At the time I got into the business, there weren't a lot of creative heroes because, once again, creativity was a word that people really didn't use that much. But actually, the admin.
Any of you recognize him from something I've shown before? In media art, this guy that's talking here, Hal Riney, he wrote the campaign commercials for Ronald Reagan. It's Morning Again, the most positive campaign for a president, still referred to as one of the best ever. He worked for Perrier water before that, and his commercials for Perrier and the campaign had the same underlying tones, which was that I wish the world looked this way. And it almost was like this, the idealistic, dream-like state. Even under Reagan, it would never, ever look that way, but maybe it could. And he always tried to give out hope. We're not talking about that one today. I skipped through that, but his story is interesting because his dad went to jail and he had to overcome that and kind of takes on all the things that we talked about so far.
Creativity was, it was a word that people really didn't use that much. But actually, the ad man was the account guy. He was the guy you saw in the movies wearing a gray suit. But the creative people were nothing. They were just sort of flunkies that they had in the agency. And the account guy was the guy that was important. So I thought I wanted to be an account guy because I thought those were the important fellows. And if you're really going to be an ad guy, you got to be an account guy. You can wear a vest and tie and one of those little funny hats and stuff like that. That's what people did then. And I tried that for about 6 months, and it was just the worst job I ever had. I finally did a campaign in the late 60s for a bank. They were an old-fashioned bank with old-fashioned customers, all of whom were either dying or about to. And they were trying to replace those people with some younger customers. I decided that there wasn't anything to talk about. So I went to the president of the bank and I said, you know, I think what we ought to do is we ought to take some of your money and go out and get a whole bunch of songwriters to write a song about young people and their lives and how their lives are changing and things like that. And I can't tell you what the song is because I'm not a songwriter, and I can't even tell you what the commercials are because I can't tell you that until we do the song. He said, well, that's pretty vague. We've only just begun to live. White lace and promises, a kiss from us and we're on our way. We've only just begun before the rising sun. We got Paul Williams to write a song for us. We've only just begun, which became #1 or 2 in the nation. So not only did we have a nationwide hit, but we also had some really kind of remarkable commercials for the time because they didn't say anything. Except you've got a long way to go. We'd like to help you get there. That was it. All we were doing was just reflecting people's lives and doing it in a way that touched that audience. Well, they came into the bank in swarms, asking for money and stuff like that. And the bank finally decided they didn't want them there because they didn't have any money. They didn't want to give them any money if they didn't have any collateral. So they killed the campaign eventually and got rid of it. But in the meantime, what they did with the campaign is they franchised it to banks all over the country. So it was sort of the beginning of getting some attention to the stuff that was going on or could go on in San Francisco, and eventually did.
Average U.S. household watches over 8 hours of TV a day. That was when TV was TV, too. %75 of American households have 3 or more televisions. How many do your houses have? Zach's got 4 fingers up. 3, Kev. 2, Lucas. 2 for me as well. Yeah.
I have like 3 TVs at one. Those are monitors.
Yeah, monitors or TVs? TVs. Yeah, you got a whole wall going on. Just one. And 1 and 1, 6?
Yeah, we have like a couple small ones, like one in the access room, and then one that's like who's already in the kitchen window.
And we're not counting like, are all of your Xbox and PlayStations hooked up to a monitor or TV? Mine's monitor, but I feel like it's too big. The TV gets me going, my eyes going back and forth too much. But maybe that's because I don't have enough room for it. All right, so that's probably under now. I bet at least 80% of the homes.
Great advertising makes food taste better. It makes cars run better. It changes the perception of everything.
For example, I Love New York. The most extraordinary thing about that campaign was the music, in a sense. Music was out for about 2 weeks before the advertising changed. But from the minute the music hit New York changed.
There's only one Broadway. It's in New York.
I think what you can do is manufacture any feeling you want to manufacture. You can create any feeling that you want people to have.
Especially in the evening.
Some people can play the piano, some people can sing. I was born, as a number of people in advertising are born, with a gift for sensing what it is that will turn you on.
I can't believe I ate that whole thing.
You ate it, Ralph.
Food companies spent 32 billion that year. Car companies spent 15 billion. Political advertising, 2.6 billion. I bet that's up, you would think. And depends on the year, right?
This is my mantra right here, okay? So, brutal simplicity. I've asked people to please simplify their ideas.
You know, I changed it to simple brutality one day.
Anybody catch these two? Remember what they were? Media art? Good thing I'm showing this whole sequence again. This one is about the milk campaign.
I am not a rebel. I am amazingly driven. This table right here, Carson School of Design, every cut in this table is art school, and it's been with me ever since. I've never had a different table in my life. I wasn't a very good student, but I had insights. It's kind of like I felt I was a little boy who saw the emperor naked. I saw things, but I didn't know what to do about it. I grew up, in art school in New York, and I would see ugliness, and I knew it was ugly, and I wanted to fix it. And that's a curse, because when you see those things, that's all you see.
I don't really notice stress too much. I'm a little bit oblivious, which makes me good at this, Rich is totally the stress guy. Rich is like a wire.
Well, I'm still trying to prove to my father that I'm any good. I think that's the whole key.
I'm the son of a guy who went to business school at Wharton and a woman who is a painter and was born in Italy. Okay, so I think that's actually absolutely perfect for advertising. I was just asking for it,
The dog pees? Yeah. And he doesn't really like it. Jeff Goodby and myself are very different people. But when we think about ideas, somehow it clicks. There's a yin and yang to it that works.
Our motto here is art serving capitalism. It comes from my mom and my dad.
I wish I could tell you we were that smart to know where it was going to go. Our goal was to create good advertising for milk in California and kind of relaunch this product, which is been with us since the beginning of time. We market milk generically. And the reason is because there are no brands of milk. If you ask people what brand of milk they buy, they'll tell you the red carton or 2%. I buy 2%, that's my brand. Milk sales are dropping about 4% a year. So every year, everybody just took milk for granted and said, can I have a Gatorade? You're Nike, or if you're Snapple. You get to introduce new flavors, new bottles, new packages, new shoes. We're selling white milk in gallons, guys. It hasn't changed since 1993. That's a real challenge.
The intent was to get people to just make sure they didn't run out of milk, which meant buy a little bit more of it or buy it
before it goes sour. They had a presentation board and they didn't have a heading for it. And so
That concept is so ingrained in your family now, whether it's milk or oat milk or soy milk. I bet every family has milk in their fridge. Am I right? Because we don't want to be without it, because we might need it for something. And I don't know about you, I only buy the half-gallon one. So it's the skinnier, taller one, right? And most of them are, what they just showed was the full gallon. There's only 2 people in my household. We buy it once a week, regardless of if we need it, and we don't finish it. So maybe there's a 4th or a 3rd, and sometimes a half, and I hate when I'm pouring it down the drain and being like, why did I buy some milk? But it's because I might need it. And my wife adds it to oatmeal. She doesn't have to add it to oatmeal. I add it to cereal. That feels like it's a must-have. But cereal has sold us on the fact that milk needs to go in there instead of eating it dry. Like it's a combination. Or if you eat cookies, you might want some milk, right? And so this is so ingrained, and this is probably since 2007. So I understand why you don't understand that it's anything but default. But they actually created your default thinking, which is we better have enough milk in the house. Their original intent was, you better not run out of milk, he's saying. And they're going to say what the other one was here in a second, and that's going to lead into that discussion question, which I've talked about in media art before, but that is truth is always better.
he asked Jeff Goodby, what do you want to put up on the top of the board?
And I said, oh, why don't you put like got milk question?
And somebody corrected him and said, yeah, but Jeff, that's not correct. It should be, do you have enough milk?
Got milk, and I look at it and go, that's dumbass line. That's bad. It's clunky, it's not even English.
And I said, no, I like got milk. I think it's kind of cool. It's so short, and it's almost nothing. It's almost gone before you can say the words.
It worked.
Great advertising almost always starts with something true.
There was hundreds of $1 million spent before this on milk does a body good. They would run the 100-yard dash and they would, whoa, whoa, whoa. That was untruthful. You do not chug milk after a 100-yard dash. I don't think it's good for you.
Was the statement milk does a body good? Is that true? What does milk contribute to in your body's health?
And your bones.
Bones starts with a C, right? Calcium, right? I think it's a big deal with the calcium, making sure your bones are strong. Now, I don't think it's a necessity. We are the only creatures on this planet that are drinking milk after we are weaned off of it. We just continue to drink other milk. There's probably other ways you can get calcium, probably in vegetables and things like that. But milk has sold us on that too. But a notion that milk is going to strengthen your body was actually a true statement. But they had every marketing campaign around it with athletes, whether it was a basketball player after a basketball game, the basketball player grabbed a thing of milk and started drinking it. They had Carl Lewis, a 100-meter yard dash gold medalist, in the advertising campaign, run, grab milk, and drink it. Almost like if you win something with the NFL or the NCAA, you are going to? I'm going to go to Disney World. That was the default. So they tried to push that one, and people were like, that is so forced. It's not real. I don't believe it. And so they were losing the people, because they didn't believe the marketing, they thought the company was lying to them, which means they don't need their product because they're trying to be sold a product instead of help. Yes.
That's kind of what he did. Like he was sponsored by Bud Light, and after this, and then you want to look it up. Like after the Super Bowl, like they like had the camera in, and like before he had any interviews, he like looked in the camera and he's like, "I'm gonna go home and drink a Bud Light." Like right after the Super Bowl, like they were like, "Is that something that they like gave him to say that?"
I'm sure they did. You bet. Yeah. Otherwise, he'd probably say a beer, right? If he said Bud Light, he might say, you know what? He might have prepped it, or he might go to the company later and be like, see what I did for you there? You know, and work that action out. Let's do some more stuff. Yeah, he was doing that with Papa John's too, right? So, but the truth was better. You just need to be concerned about running out of milk, or milk does a body good is fine, but that's not how we're doing a body good there.
And the truth is, you cut up your strawberries, you put it on your cereal, you're sitting down, and you don't have very much. I need milk. But there's the truth. And that's it.
There is no other kind of communication in the world that's as focused as an ad is. You get a certain amount of time to engage somebody, and you have to do it in a quality way.
This is a good commercial based on the Hamilton generation. So everyone now knows, but not everyone knew. The name wasn't on everyone's lips before. But who shot Hamilton? Do you guys not know who shot Hamilton?
Aaron Burr.
Thank you. Was that Tyler? Tyler.
Yep.
Aaron Burr. Oh man, you gotta listen to the soundtrack for Hamilton at least. If not, you can't watch it. Disney Plus, they have it. But Aaron Burr. So this is a commercial playing on this.
It's like haiku, like the Aaron Burr thing that we did for milk. Every single cut is working hard to do something.
And now let's make that random call with today's $10,000 question. It's a tough one. Who shot Alexander Hamilton in that famous duel? All right, let's go to the phones and see.
He's got the bullet.
Hello, for $10,000. Who shot? Excuse me? Your time is almost up. I'm sorry, maybe next time.
I think we're trying to entertain society using clients' products. I think, and if a client heard that, they go, "Boy, you're not thinking about my product?" Of course we are. But I believe we're here every day to do something kind of special to connect to society in some entertainment form.
And I tell people all the time, it's the same as making art. You know, I make stuff, I put it in people's faces, and it changes them, and hopefully it enriches them, makes them feel something, and it's really a rush to have it happen to millions of people at once.
I don't have a formal assignment for this. We're done at 20 after, right? So number one, turn in that assignment, finish that up and submit those answers. There's no formal assignment, but I want you to come to class having thought through 2 products that you would like to expand upon your thinking. I'm going to give you some pre-production questions. And then we're going to, since we have such a small group, we'll probably pitch to everyone instead of breaking into smaller groups. We'll throw virtual learners in for the pitch too. So Tyler and Bradley, you two come up with those. So first thing in class tomorrow, I will give you some time to answer some questions about a couple of potential products. It's just going to be a little bit annoying for you to think of those on the spot. So if you want to just like create a little note to yourself, you want to start thinking now for 10 minutes, or you want to do that throughout the day. I've got this thing, the notes on my phone that I'm constantly accessing for like WATV notes, and some random person will say something and I put that note in there. Same kind of thing here. You're thinking commercials for the next day here. Watch TV, look around your room. How are you interacting with things? A lot of you, I know a friend who buys their clothing from one particular vendor. They love that vendor. That'd be a great one to think through. I always say two, because sometimes we will like the other option. You in your mind will think, oh, this one's going to be great. And everyone else across the board is like, oh, I really like that one instead. You can still go with whichever one you want at some point. You get to pick the product. But like Postmates, I didn't know what Postmates was. You guys said you knew what that was. Somehow that person had it in their brain. I'm doing that. Uber Eats, whatever that kind of thing is, that's probably in their life. That's why. They're probably ordering from Postmates, or their family was, and it was bringing their stuff there. So probably the best way to start is what do you know about? And it could be, like a mini golf place. It could be a church. It'd be interesting to advertise for your church and live stream and things like that. It could be food you eat, clothing. We'll try and work through some more of that, but kind of have your mind open to the possibilities throughout the day, so that when tomorrow hits, you're not spending too much time thinking about a couple of them. Yeah.
You want us to try to summarize?
The 5 questions. Yeah. Doc, PDF, both are fine. If you want to just save it and send that file. Yep. If for whatever reason we want it, I did stream that to YouTube, so that becomes available. Tyler and Bradley, I'm going to use this moment to say goodbye to you. I'll see you tomorrow in class. And then if possible, you don't have to, you can do this through chat, but you could, if you guys want to interact with us vocally, we'll probably be sharing some ideas tomorrow. But we won't brainstorm until tomorrow, so you don't have to overthink that now. All right. See you guys later.
See ya.